Hello, lovely people. My name is Wizo, and welcome to Level Up Corner. Now, today we are going to talk about how to create non-combat encounters and how to create successful and pretty good non-combat encounters. There are 5 steps to doing so, and well, let's just jump right into it. The first step is generating your idea. Now, this is the simplest step because people say, well, ideas are a dime a dozen, and actually that's overvaluing ideas. In fact, if you need to, you can look in the description below and we will have a link to a website that will generate random ideas for you for non-combat encounters. Now, if you're curious to what an idea for a non-combat encounter would be, it could be something as simple as, oh, the party passes a merchant on the side of the road, or oh, the party needs to go and find this one flower, and there's no combat, they just need to go and find the flower. Now, generating an encounter idea is extraordinarily easy. What's a little bit harder are the next steps in order to make your non-combat encounter actually worthwhile. Because while you may have an idea, while you may have a merchant on the side of the road, what are you trying to accomplish with it? Normally, when delving into dungeons, that goal is so that the players could defeat the big bad guy or whatever else. It's pretty straightforward. The goal for non-combat encounters can be a little bit different, and this is where you can introduce a lot of change and subtlety into your game. It could be that when the players see that merchant on the road, they don't know what's going to happen. Well, of course, there's a big bad guy, you know, they know they need to kill it, but if there's a merchant on the road, should they rob him? Should they help him? I mean, what should they do? Is it a trap? No one really knows. So they might approach the merchant, they might not. But let's say they do approach the merchant, just for now, and we'll get back to if they don't. Let's say that they do approach that merchant. You need to have a goal. That merchant can need to get travel because he has a sick son in the next village. That merchant could be trying to fix his wagon and doesn't want the adventurer's help, but he stubbornly needs it. You could have a whole bunch of these other goals that happen, and while these may be a little bit obscure goals, the next step is when it all comes together. You see, the third step is piquing the player's curiosity. Now, this is where it comes together. This is what makes the players not skip by that merchant. While you may have an idea that a merchant's on the side of the road and has the goal that he needs to get to the next town to help his poor sick son, you need to pique their curiosity. Because even me trying to make it sound somewhat entertaining like that, it probably made you just think, ugh, yeah, I don't want to spend my time doing this. So you need to pique their curiosity with something. You could make it so that the merchant that they see on the side of the road has a crown that has 3 different symbols in it, a triangle, a square, and a circle. Now the players are wondering, wait, what's up with the crown? And they want to go and check it out. They're probably not thinking of an ambush because you've given a unique descriptor to the person. You could also give something else to pique their curiosity. You could say that instead of horses drawing the carriage, it was 2 rabbits that were at the reins. And now the adventurers are more curious, wait, why are rabbits, no, not why, how? And they just want to go and figure it out. Now, that is the first part of piquing their curiosity, to get them drawn to the event. They can still choose to not do it, but if you pique their curiosity appropriately, it's very hard for them to walk away and say no. Now, you've piqued their curiosity to get them to approach. But there's a second part to piquing their curiosity. I know it's a little bit of a 2-parter step, but you have to pique their curiosity in dialogue, or when they get there. Because now that you've drawn them in, you still need to make it interesting. You still need to make them curious. And in order to do so, you need to give some wild element. Instead of just, oh, my son's sick in the next village, you could say that my son and a few other people have been turning to stone recently. Okay, that's a bit more interesting of a sickness. What else could you say? You could even go more elaborate. You could say, my son is slowly turning into an animal, and the animals, the people that have been turned into animals, they're going to different villages and they're harassing them, and this is becoming a greater problem than just our village. Well, now your adventurers can, yeah, sure, whatever, cure that medicinal problem, that's fine. But they could also extort other villages for rewards, not just this one. Ah. See, when you pique the curiosity of your players, you need to figure out what your players are interested in. And you should have an idea based on their characters and personalities, because people don't entirely change their personality when they play a character, even if they play a character that's a little bit different from them. But you should sort of have an idea if they're greedy and interesting in gold, if they're curious, wondering why people are turning to stone, or if they just want to be do-gooders and just say, oh, well, we need to stop these people from turning into skeletons, because that's what apparently the curse is. Or, not curse, sorry. Sickness. So you can also, if you want to just lace it with mystery, because they're a very curious type, you can lace it with, yeah, we've been sick and people have been turning into undead. That's not a sickness, that's a curse. And your party might be interested, because generally when there's a curse, there's some evil perpetrator, and then there's loot. There's a whole bunch of things behind piquing curiosity, and it is a very important step that you have. Most dungeon masters who have problems with non-combat encounters get the first two right. They get an idea and they have a goal, but they don't think of their players. And you need to pique their curiosity. Otherwise, why would they want to do this? The answer is they wouldn't. They wouldn't if you don't accurately pique their curiosity. Now, the fourth part of creating great non-combat encounters is having some sort of conflict. This is another thing where dungeon masters who don't do non-combat encounters sort of fall flat. You need to have some sort of conflict. Now, in combat, it's pretty simple. The conflict is the combat itself. You're fighting in order to live and in order to not lose HP or resources, whatever. You have conflicts just abounding in that area. But for social encounters, dungeon masters just try to brush by them. Even if they do have something that piques the player's curiosity, they don't always have conflict. Now, conflict doesn't need to be, oh, you can't solve this, or something as simple as make a roll. I mean, making a roll, just one roll, is not conflict. I'm sorry. It's not conflict at all. You need to have something built into that encounter that's conflicting. So, for example, let's go back to that merchant. He needs to go and help his son because everyone's turning to stone, but when he gets there, his son's already turned to stone. And he doesn't want to help the adventurers. People don't want to help them because they're afraid that the curse or the sickness will spread more for some reason. You can have that element of conflict that makes it go directly against the adventurers. And what players want to deal with the most is any sort of conflict. If you say to them, oh no, you can't do it, oh, no one's helping you, oh, it seems like it's too hard for you, the players will just go, really? Really? We're doing this. We're doing this, whether you like it or not. And that's exactly what you want. You want them to do it. So you need some sort of conflict. The conflict could also be that when you get there, the merchant doesn't have a lot of money, and then they have to figure out what to do. Although I would not recommend making your players get drafted for trying to do a good deed. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that because you're disencouraging them from doing these things in the future, and it'll make them think twice. No, some of their conflict could be where they find out that it's actually some plot. Maybe it was someone who poisoned the well and it made this thing happen, and they need to go on a mystery. There needs to be more to a social encounter than just, hey, help, okay, A to B, done. There needs to be something in between. It could be that also the merchant's trying to betray them. He's trying to lead them into the city. The city has these people being poisoned and turning into stone, and the merchant says, I'm sorry, I was hired to turn you into stone as well. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. I couldn't do anything. They have my son. And at this point, you now have another quest line going on. The non-combat encounter has turned into a side quest. It may involve combat at that point, but they could also resolve it without combat. You can continue and spiral this into something more. So conflict is extraordinarily important in order to make a non-combat or social encounter, whatever, non-combat encounter be interesting. Because if you don't have an interesting, why would the players want to do it? I mean, they're playing this game for fun. Conflict is extremely important. Now, the last part, the fifth part, is impact. You need to have an impact at the end of that non-combat encounter. The impact could be that the players ended up going through another side quest and they found out that there's this evil organization and they squashed it then and there. But there is more out there. Now, that's if you continue on the quest line, but let's say that the players are just trying to solve this in a non-combat way. Let's say that they find out the well is poisoned. Well, they find out who poisoned the well, but whoever poisoned the well got this medicine from somewhere. He didn't make it himself, no. Someone else gave him the recipe. Someone else was controlling him to do so. And now it extends further. There's more to the world. I mean, let's do another example of impact. Just one more and then I'll get to the point. The other example of impact could be that if people are turning into undead, then the players know that there's now some sort of medicine. Let's say it is actually an herb that's turning people into undead. This is huge. You can turn people into undead through medicine. I mean, your rogues will have a heyday with that. That's a huge impact that they get. Now, impacts, the point of them is that they build on the world. They don't just make it so that, oh, that was a fun encounter. Okay, let's not do anything else yet. No. Your encounters have to have some sort of impact to the world at large. You need to maybe add an organization, maybe add an extra element for them to learn about. These are where you build up the lore of your world, where you add new elements so that the players can learn about and so that they can use on their own. This is where you make non-combat encounters be extraordinarily interesting. It doesn't have to be something as grand as adding a huge bit of lore to the world either. Impacts could be something that directly affects the players. Let's say they end up helping that merchant and they save the poor sick son from whatever curse or strange thing that's happening. That merchant now is willing to sponsor them and spread their name out far and wide. That merchant is able to then make the party's notoriety increase. They don't need just gold, because I mean gold's cheap. Gold's for almost anything. Gold, sure, you can have as a side, but the main part of your impact is that there needs to be something done, something that could affect the players personally. And if you impact them with notoriety, fame, perhaps even rewarding them a small home that they could have, or even just a traveling home like a giant wagon to be an RV or whatever, you're giving them something, an impact, maybe not necessarily to the world, but to them, their characters are the world. So if you impact their characters' lives in a positive way, preferably, otherwise, again, if it's negative, the players won't want to do these encounters. But if you impact it in a positive way, then the players, they might want to continue doing this. They might want to continue doing your non-combat encounters. And you can make whole side quests. You can make even, I mean, campaigns are a little bit of a stretch, but you can make a campaign of non-combat encounters. I've done it before because the group just really doesn't like combat and isn't good with combat. But you can continue doing this to where the players even can become more mercantile merchants. They could be more messengers who go through and try to deliver messages from kingdom to kingdom. I mean, there are 1,000 things that you can do with non-combat encounters. And they don't have to be these little side gimmicks where it's just, oh, that was fun, we rescued Timmy from the well, alright, we're done. No. You can make it interesting. You can make it so that after you've generated your idea and have a goal, there's a point of interest for your characters so that they want to come. You can make it so that there's conflict in order to make it so that the players keep coming back and wanting to figure out what it is, and we want to figure this out now. Don't you tell us we can't. And lastly, you need to have an impact so that it either affects the large world around them or the player characters, which really are their own parts of this world. So it does, in a sense, impact the world. Now, those are 5 steps to non-combat encounters. But if you want to learn a little bit more about non-combat encounters, I would highly suggest that you look at the article down in the link below, because it has a whole slew of these things. It has the 5 steps, but it also has even more that you can do to enhance your non-combat encounters. I hope this has helped you, and, well, what's the best non-combat encounter that you've had? Did this help you? Do you think that this will improve your non-combat encounters? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. This has been Wizo, and keep rolling.